Hey guys, welcome back to your weekly life coaching training. As usual, if you are watching the replay, please put hashtag replay in the comments so I know that you were here. I would love to get some feedback from you guys. If you are enjoying having business and marketing coaching in a style shoot group versus ones that do not have that, let me know. If you like the topics that we're talking about, if you don't, let me know. I'd love to hear more back from you about what you would love to see in this group, how I can make it better for you, and how I can serve you best with education, with business and marketing skills to help you progress further, faster in your business. We are talking this week all about niche, and I'm super excited about that. It was a request from one of our members. It was actually in the queue for me to talk about, just bumped it up so we could go ahead and talk about it tonight. I was asked to talk about how I found my niche and how I built a business around that. And I'm going to also share with you guys my formula to niche your business, because one of the biggest mistakes that industry professionals make is feeling that and thinking that they have a niche when in fact they're super generalized. And that can answer a lot of questions if you feel like you might be struggling with your marketing. So if you are new here, because I know we have a lot of new people that joined this week, my name is Becca Boschich. I am a photographer, business educator, and artist in Orlando, Florida. I started this group recently because I had been attending style shoots. I loved everything about them, but I'm an alternative photographer, and I had a really hard time finding ones that fit my niche and fit them well. And I love design, art, and planning so much that I really wanted to start hosting my own. So that's why this group started. We have our first event August 22nd in St. Augustine, Florida. So if you are a photographer and you want to get in on some of the remaining tickets, message me. We can talk more about it. I can give you all the info. So about niching. So let's go ahead and dive into that. We've got some people already signing on live, which is awesome. You guys know, just put your questions and your comments in the comment box below, and I will answer this for you. If you are watching the replay and you have questions after the fact, please send them to me. Put them in the comments. I'm happy to come back and answer this for you. Okay? So niching. I love talking about niching because when you niche your business, you will find that your marketing will be 1,000 times more effective than it ever has been before. So just to put it in simple terms, what niching is basically, simply put, having a specialty. Okay, so when you focus on a particular area in your market, you become known as an expert. And when you're known as an expert, people know that you have a specialty. Okay, you wouldn't go to a real estate photographer to get your portrait taken. You typically wouldn't go to a makeup artist for special effects makeup. Some cases you would. Sometimes those makeup artists that do bridal also do special effects. I know we have a couple in here, but typically that doesn't happen. You wouldn't go to a cupcake shop to look for a baker to make your wedding cake, because they all have specialties and that's not what you're looking for. And there's a reason why niche matters. It matters because having a specialty, is important, because if you try to market to everyone, in the end you market to no one. So let me explain to you guys what I mean by that. So let's say you're a photographer and you do weddings, you do seniors, maternity, and newborns, okay? That's 4 categories. In fact, it's 4 niches. The issue that people run into that is, let's say, for example, you're talking about social media marketing and you're going to post 4 times a week and you have 4 different sets of people in 4 very different areas of their lives that you're marketing to. What you market for seniors is not going to resonate to the people who are looking for a wedding photographer. When you post something to couples that are looking for a wedding photographer, that's not going to resonate with people looking for a maternity photographer, and so on and so forth. You guys see what I'm saying? So what happens is when you post to one of those 4 categories, you're only reaching 25% of your audience. So let's say you are posting 4 times a week. You do that faithfully every week. So that's 4 weeks a month, right? So out of those 4 weeks a month, and you're posting 4 times a week to those 4 different types of people that you're marketing to, literally, you're only reaching each category of potential clients 4 times a month. So you can imagine, after you invest all that time and effort into marketing, why it probably isn't going to be near as effective as if every single post you were making resonated with every single bit of your audience, absolutely every single time. Does that make sense? And are there any questions so far? Because when you start realizing this, guys, it's a real eye-opener, okay? And I want to just make a side note. When you first start out in a business, or let's say you've been doing this a while and you realize that you're trying to market to everyone because you want everyone to like you and you want everyone to invest with you, you'll find out that it's not working because, again, if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. People want to go to someone who specializes in what they need. Okay, so there are occasions where you can have multiple niches in your business and it will work. I've actually seen that happen. I know some photographers who do couples, weddings, maternity, and newborns, and I think that works for them because they have the same clients through different aspects of their life and there's that natural gradation. But generally speaking, the more little sections that you have to your business, the less your marketing is going to be effective. It's watering things down because you're spreading your attention to, and it's thinning, it ends up, basically what I'm trying to say is you're spreading your attention thin to multiple things versus targeting your efforts towards one thing, which would accelerate your abilities in that skill and your marketing results. So you guys probably have heard like jack of all trades, master of none. You can have a little bit of talent in a lot of things, but when you lack true focus in one area, it's really hard to be proficient at that level that makes you an expert in that field. Okay. And that's why having a niche, that's what having a niche is. It's having a specialty that makes you an expert in that department and gives people searching for what you have to offer even more reason to invest in you. Okay. Let me scooch over my notes here for a second because I want to make sure, yeah, we're cool. Okay. So like I was saying, when you're first starting out, or maybe you have been at things for a while and you're marketing to everyone, it's okay at first. It's okay because you need to try your hand at different skill sets. You need to try seeing who you want to market to. You've got to find out what your passion is. So it's okay to not come out of the gate with a specific niche. The point is, the sooner that you can niche down into a specialty, the better, because that's when your marketing becomes super effective. It's worth the time that you're investing and you're going to see return on that investment. Okay. There's 4 reasons that having a niche matters, and these are super important. Okay. Number 1, it helps you stand out in your market. And I put a post out the other day asking you guys if you wanted to hear more about how to stand out in your market. This is one of the ways. It's one of the ways. When you have a specialty, you stand out above the rest. Okay. Number 2, you become known as an expert in your field. Okay. Number 3, it establishes credibility. When you're known as an expert, there's a lot of credibility there, okay? And number 4, it provides clarity for you and your clients, okay? So when you say you're a photographer or a baker, to be honest with you, that's not saying a whole lot. It's a very generalized statement, and we're gonna talk about how to navigate that and niche down so you can be much more effective with your potential clients in your marketing, okay? So like I said before, one of the most common mistakes that industry professionals make when it comes to niching their business is thinking that they actually have a niche when in fact they're being super generalized, okay? So there's a formula that I personally use that helped me narrow down my niche. And this is where I don't want you guys to scroll away. If you got a pen and paper, get it out because you're going to need it because you'll want to remember this, okay? Because a lot of people will get to a certain point in this formula and they stop thinking they're done and they're not, okay? So we're going to start off with number 1. This is your formula. Number 1, you're going to list your industry. So this is where you're going to think broad. So it might be photography, it might be culinary arts, it might be cosmetology or fashion, okay? So just think about what your industry is. This is a broad, generalized statement, and write that down, okay? Second, you're going to list your category, okay? So where, what are you interested in? Is it weddings, events, real estate? This is where most people stop. They'll say, I am a wedding photographer. I am a florist for weddings. I am, they get really generalized and they, don't think that they're being generalized, think they're actually getting specific, but they stop there. And this is where the actual magic happens, where there's going to be a mindset shift and you're going to be like, holy crap, I had no idea I was doing this. This makes sense why this is going to work for me from now on. Okay. So the third part of the formula is where you list your specific expertise and or interest. And you're going to get specific. Who do you help? And what problem do you solve? Or what need do you fulfill? Okay. So again, the formula is number 1, list your industry. Number 2, list your category and get specific with number 3, list your specific expertise and or interest. Okay. So let me give you some examples because it doesn't make as much sense unless you hear the examples. Okay. So let's start off with, let's do a photographer. I'm a photographer, so it's easy for me to use those examples. So the category would be photography, okay? Or excuse me, the industry would be photography. The category, let's do brand photography, okay? A lot of people are going to stop right there and say, well, I'm a brand photographer. That's a special, interest niche. Sure. Okay. No, it's not. It's not. It's too generalized. But this is where niche comes in. Okay. What if you are a brand photographer who specializes in female creative entrepreneurs, like bakers, artists, florists, photographers? That is much more specific. And I know myself as a photographer, if I knew a brand photographer and I was looking for some new images for, marketing purposes, I would much rather go to a brand photographer than a family photographer, especially a brand photographer who specializes in creative businesses, because they have an idea of what is needed and what we're looking for when we're marketing to our potential clients. It's a huge difference when they're a specialist, okay? Maybe you're an elopement and intimate wedding photographer, but for who do you serve? Like, for example, I serve non-traditional couples. I love elopements and intimate weddings. I'm not a big wedding kind of person, but I niche down further to reaching out to non-traditional couples, okay? Maybe you're a hair and makeup artist. Maybe your category is hair and makeup. Your industry, your category is portrait clients. But think about that. Niche down further. What if you were someone who serves senior graduates with glamorous looks for their high school senior portraits? If you were a specialist hair and makeup artist that specifically serves seniors, can you imagine what kind of draw that would have for senior clients? They would absolutely be begging their parents to go to you because you serve them specifically. Does that make sense, guys? Because it's one thing to have an industry that you're involved in and a category that you fall into. It's another thing to have a niche. And part 3 of this formula is where you find your niche. And a lot of people get scared about specializing because they don't want to repel people. They want everyone to like them, everyone to invest in them. But guys, that's not the people, marketing to general audiences. You're marketing to people who aren't thrilled and excited about you. They may like you, but they're not passionate about what you're offering. When you create a niche, you are targeting people who are passionate about what you offer and what you do. And there is a huge difference in the results from your marketing when you do that, okay? Maybe you're an artist, okay? Maybe your category is graphic design. But what if you niche down into specializing serving wedding photographers with websites to attract their ideal audience? That's huge. Can you imagine? I would hire that person in a heartbeat over any other generalized graphic designer who can do everything in the kit and caboodle. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference here. The point is to attract and repel. It is okay to repel people away from your business as much as it is to attract them. And I know that seems scary and uncomfortable to think about, but it's true. You want to attract the right people for you, and you want to repel the ones that aren't right for you and your business because they're not going to value what you have to offer, okay? So take some time to really think about this and get specific so you can stand out in your market as an expert in your field, okay? So a couple additional notes with this. If you can, use your niche as the first line in your Insta bio. Or any social media platform for that matter, if you can, depending on how large of a character limit they'll give you. So for example, you want to put, I help blank, the group that you help, with blank, the problem that you solve or the need that you fulfill. Okay, so for example, for that brand photographer we talked about earlier, you can say, I help female creative entrepreneurs with images that immediately connect to their tribe. Okay, or you could be an adventure elopement photographer and your statement in your bio can say, helping couples experience adventure over tradition on their wedding day. Or maybe you're a florist and you can say that you offer bold minimalist designs for the modern couple's intimate wedding. That's super niche. And let me tell you, I would call that person in a heartbeat. So you want to niche down to what you're passionate about and that you know your potential clients are going to be passionate about too. When you give them generalities, there's nothing for them to get excited about. There really isn't. When you get specific with something that resonates with them, they get super excited to work with you, okay? Also, what that means is that when you're known as an expert in your field and people are willing to go to you for your specialty, you can charge more. It's just like, for example, you guys know I used to be a dental hygienist. People that need a root canal are going to go to a specialist most often called an endodontist, okay? you have to pay a certain amount when you go to specialists like cardiologists, orthopedic surgeons, things like that, because they're specialists in their field and they charge more for that specialty because they have the expertise to give you the best treatment possible. Why? Because that's what they specialize in, because they do it all day long. They're going to do it much, much better than any general doctor could ever do for you, right? So think of it that way. So I want you to know too that it's okay to have more than one niche. I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm saying that the more categories you have in your niche, the harder it is to make your marketing effective, okay? So for example, if you guys have ever heard of Hope Taylor, she is a photographer. She niches with seniors and weddings. She's also an educator, and she has killed it for years. She does amazingly well. So people can be successful, but ideally, if you can narrow down to one or two niche categories, that would be best. The less, the better, for sure, okay? So to answer the question, because I know Millie had asked me this about talking about how I found my niche and how I went about establishing my business around it, I'll try to keep this brief, but this is how it happened with me getting in alternative photography. When I was in high school, and college, I did black and white film photography, and I loved it, almost did it as a career. And when I was in high school, someone came out of the darkroom with an 8x10 black and white of these two guys in these massive mohawks. And I said, I want to photograph that. And at the time, alternative photography was not a thing. In fact, things were quite traditional in the industry. They still are. But back then, like, there was just no room for a lot of, a specialized niche like that. Also, the way that we could market back then was very different from today. Today we have all these free platforms and ways to reach people across the globe so easily, and we didn't have that back then. And also, I think too, as a young adult and teenager, the idea of doing a wedding every Saturday and not getting to hang out with my friends was a problem at the time too. But I knew right off the bat what I liked and I didn't like. Okay, I never liked the typical portraiture. It was just nothing. And no one please take this the wrong way. This is just how I personally felt for my art. It did not spark any fire in me. I didn't find any creativity in that for me. It just did not light me up. And so I went on to do other things. But about 4 years ago, my husband and I got married and we eloped in St. Augustine. And when we were looking for a photographer, there was no one for people like me. And it was very frustrating and it was difficult. And it didn't make me feel very good. We hired someone who was very sweet and she did a great job. But we were not her ideal client. And that was clear as day to me. And you can't imagine what it feels like unless you've been through that. To try to find someone to document the most important day of your life, or one of the most important days of your life, and you don't feel very wanted. Not by them specifically, by the industry as a whole. And I talked to my husband at the time and said, I'm thinking about getting back into photography. And if I do it, I want to serve people like us because it's needed. Back in the day, people that looked like me, it was not okay. And I know, compared to today's standards, the way that I look is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But you guys have to understand, I grew up in a time where, in a city where having colored hair and short spiky hair and growing up in the punk rock and gothic subcultures was not accepted by traditional society. And so now things are very different. And I think that people are deciding to do things more and more their own way, regardless of what society is telling them. And things like alternative photography are now an everyday thing in the UK. It's slowly coming to the States. But that's how I knew what my niche was. I just knew right away. And it's okay if you don't know right away. Like I said, try working with different clients. Try working with different techniques until you find what you're passionate about. When you find what you're passionate about, that should open the doors to help you find out what your niche truly is. Okay? But to answer Millie's question about how I developed a business around that, I knew specifically who I wanted to target. I wanted to target people like me who were looking for high-end work that was creative and modern, artistic, and was for people like me, so that if someone that looked like me came up to me and said, I would love for you to photograph my wedding, I wouldn't flinch a second. I wouldn't flinch for a second if you had a mohawk, if you had piercings. I wouldn't flinch if you looked normal, like an everyday person. Excuse me for saying normal, because what is normal anymore, really? But if you just had a traditional look, that wouldn't matter to me either. Maybe you just want to break the norm and have an elopement and not do a traditional wedding. I'm down with that too. I wanted to be a safe place for people who wanted to break out of the traditions, whether it be their aesthetic or whether it be traditional wedding traditions, and to give them a place to be. And that's how I figured that out. Now, my husband is a graphic designer. He used to work professionally as one. He has his own business doing something else now. But he helped design, or he did design my logo. And we spent a lot of time talking about branding, and I wanted to have this modern, edgy look, but I didn't want anything to be like too punk rock or too gothic. I didn't want to niche down that far, just because I wanted to be welcoming to everyone who is non-traditional. And if you guys go to my website, it's rockyrebellion.com, you'll find out very quickly that it's not a typical photographer's website. It's purposely designed to attract and repel. And you want to talk about niching, that is an example if you need some help to see how to attract the right people that you want and how to repel, because we worked really hard on that. So I slowly built my business around that. I reached out to anyone that I knew that I thought would be the great fit for my brand. And I did a ton of modeling sessions and slowly built my business that way. And I've just found, like, when something doesn't exist, I tend to build it. So that's how my photography business started. And that's honestly how this group started too. It didn't exist for me, so damn it, I'm going to build it. So if you guys have any questions about niching, if you want me to talk further about this topic, or if you have other topics you'd like me to talk about in the future, please let me know. I hope this was helpful. Let me double check the comments here just to make sure before I go. I think we're good though. All right, any questions before I leave? Okay, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions about the upcoming shoot, too, let me know. Replays, as always, are going to be available in the welcome post that is pinned at the top of our group, so you can go back there to watch the replays. All right, I hope you have a great evening, and I'll talk to you guys soon.